be speculation on my part. Anything was possible on that day.
Okay. The Mauser had been fired. Was that?
I don't know. When the Captain Fritz opened the bolt, a cartridge came out. But
spent.
Oh no, live round.
Live round.
Live round.
Okay.
Came out of it, and he picked it up immediately. I didn't see it. I don't know what kind it was. I assumed it fit the Mauser though.
Has it ever been verified that Mauser had been fired? Was that
Mauser?
Are we talking about the rifle that Oswald used?
You say the Mauser has been established that it was fired. It's gone. I don't know where it is. It disappeared.
All right. Have we been talking about the rifle that Oswald was supposed to have had? Okay, let me put it that way.
Well, they allege that was the rifle, the Italian rifle.
They allege that the Mauser was the Italian rifle?
Yes, later on, they came up with an Italian carbine and said, this is the rifle we found on the 6th floor.
And this Mauser has disappeared?
As far as I know, I don't know where it is. I don't know what happened to it.
What do the official records say?
There are no official records on the Mauser.
But you said Seymour Weitzman identified it with Captain Fritz.
Yes.
As a Mauser.
Yes.
Okay. And you and the other two gentlemen were all police officers?
Yes.
No official records for that?
No, sir.
Did you not enter this in your report?
No, because the investigation was being conducted by Will Fritz. And
in his report?
I don't know. He destroyed his notes.
What about Seymour Weitzman's report?
I have never seen it. I don't know whether he made one. He's now in a mental institution.
And that has bothered you, I suppose.
Of course, he was a good friend.
Okay. I mean, the fact that the anomalies in the reports and the situation.
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what did you do about it? Did you ask questions?
No, I didn't ask any questions because the Dallas police were conducting the investigation.
Okay.
And the FBI.
Okay. When it all came out, when it all became published, and you saw that there was at least some great omissions, what did you do then?
I got sick at first. And I don't know, I just couldn't believe it. But to go back, we need to relate to the fact about the man leaving the building, I think.
Okay.
It's of great significance. Because that afternoon, after Officer Tippett was killed, they took a suspect into custody. And I was thinking about this man getting away from me.
This was the man that got into the Green Rambler.
The Green Rambler. And I called Captain Fritz at his office and gave him a description of the man I saw get into the Rambler. And he told me, and I quote him, "It sounds like the suspect we have in custody. Come on up and take a look at him." So I went out and got in my unmarked car and drove to the City Hall, went directly to Captain Fritz's office. And we went into Captain Fritz's inner office, and the man was sitting in a chair behind a desk. And there was another gentleman. I assumed he was one of Fritz's people because he had the white cowboy hat on, which was the trademark at that time of the Dallas Homicide Bureau. And Fritz turned to me and said, "Is this the man you saw?" And I said, "Yes." And it was. It was. So he turned to the suspect and he said, "This man saw you leave." At which time the suspect became a little excited. And he said, "I told you people I did." And Fritz said, "Now take it easy, son," talking to the suspect. He said, "We're just trying to find out what happened to you." He said, "What about the car?" I didn't say station wagon. He said, "What about the car?" At which time the suspect leaned forward and put both hands up on the desk and said, "That station wagon belongs to Mrs. Payne. Don't try to drag her into this." Then he leaned back and very disgustedly said, "Everybody will know who I am now." Now, this was not a brag. I know it's been blown up to be a brag in the Warren Commission. This was not a brag. This was a man that gets in a building at night, after it's locked. It's like somebody's trying to steal something and you catch him at it.
He was embarrassed about it.
Or disgusted that he had blown his cover or been caught or something. It wasn't a brag.
Okay. You obviously found a lot more things like that. There were a lot of... We don't have time to go into them all. But then something happened to Roger Craig. Roger Craig then realized that something had to be done. So let's get to that.
Well, people began to come to the sheriff's office to talk to Roger Craig. My name appeared in several books that had come out condemning the Warren Commission. So people began to come from all over the country. And they'd come in and ask me if they could talk to me and ask me what happened on that day. And I saw nothing wrong with telling them what I saw and heard. I gave my statement. So the sheriff called me in and asked me what the people wanted that were coming down there. And I told him they just wanted to talk to me about what happened. And he said, "Well, you tell them when they come that you didn't see anything and you didn't hear anything."
They found reason to fire you?
Well, he thought it was reason. I had a felon arrested for a friend of mine who was a sheriff up in Arkansas, and because I was working the bond desk and had the felon arrested when I was off duty, not working the bond desk, he said I was interfering with family business, and he fired me. But I thought a police officer was on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if he knew where a felon was, he had him arrested. I thought that was his job. But apparently it wasn't at that time.
Okay. Well, this then was just a method to get rid of you, to discredit you, obviously.
I had reached that conclusion by that time, yes.
Okay. Did the interviews keep on after you were fired, or were you continue to be...
No, I tried to get back to a normal way of life. I had a family to support, and I took a job managing a bail bond company. But people weren't coming around so much asking me questions as they were following me. And people I had known for a long time, one in particular, asked me to meet him at a coffee shop at Columbia and Carroll Street. And so he was about an hour late, and I was sitting in my car waiting outside of his place. And these two cars kept circling the block. So we took... Finally, he arrived, and we went over and we had our coffee. We were followed in by this man in a checkered jacket that was driving one of the cars. So by the time we finished our coffee, we started to leave. The man jumped up, and he left first. And we walked out and went over to Columbia Street. We were standing on the curb, and all of a sudden my friend fell to the ground. And I thought, well, he stumbled, And for some reason, I stepped off of the curb. And when I did, a shot came from behind and passed over my left ear. And I headed for my car immediately and went home.
Your friend dropped. In other words, to be out of the line of fire.
Fired.
Apparently he knew what was going to happen.
It's my conclusion now.
Did you ever see your friend again?
No, but he had a huge judgment. I think $85,000 or $87,000 judgment against him at this time. It was a lawsuit over a record company that he had owned or something.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after this incident happened to me, that judgment disappeared, and he's doing quite well now.
I see. An attempt then was made on your life.
That would be my opinion.
This wasn't a stray bullet that some kid with a hunting rifle was using, huh? In downtown Dallas.
No, it was pistol shot. It wasn't rifle.
Pistol shot. You began to realize that somebody was after you.
That's fairly obvious.
Okay. What did you feel like?
I just wanted to get out of there at that time.
Yeah, but as you got home and you thought about it, and you determined that somebody was trying to kill you.
Well, I went back over all the things that had happened. The things that I knew. You got to remember, I had access to a great many affidavits and things, such as the paraffin test on Lee Harvey Oswald. There was no nitrates found on his face, and the hands were inconclusive. They wouldn't have stood up in court from a law student out of SMU. You couldn't have held that case up in court.
Okay.
Besides the fact I heard the police tapes. And a trained Dallas police officer who found the hulls at the Tippit killing said it looks like the suspect is carrying an automatic 38. I have some 38 automatic hulls here at the scene. And Oswald was carrying a revolver. And again, the two don't relate. You cannot shoot an automatic 38 shell in a revolver. They're smaller in size to begin with.
In 38 caliber and 38 caliber aren't the same.
38 automatic, I'm saying, will not shoot in a 38 revolver.
I see.
And vice versa.
So you then realized that because of all these inconsistencies and this information you had, the conclusions you had drawn, and of course voicing them to the various members of the press and or other people, you realized that somebody was trying to kill you, and it was because of what you knew.
Yes, and I had contacted Jim Garrison.
What does that feel like?
Very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
Do you go into a state of panic? Did you panic?
No, I didn't. No. I had 8 years' experience in law enforcement.
Yeah, but they were aiming at Roger Craig. That bullet was meant for your ear.
I know that. But I became a lot more cautious with my family. I wouldn't let them out, say, late at night, or if they were going somewhere, I was sure to know exactly where they were going, and when they got there, they called me, or I took them if I was at home, and not trying to find some work somewhere. Doors all of a sudden closed in Dallas. There was no work for Roger Craig.
Did you report the shooting incident to the police?
No.
Why not?
Well, see, Captain Fritz is chief of homicide, and it would come under his jurisdiction. And he's the one that denied that I was even in his office that afternoon and identified Oswald. And that's like General Custer calling for more Indians.
What does a citizen normally do when, if he's assaulted or shot at? He would report.
He calls the police department, yes.
Okay, and you didn't do that?
No.
You were convinced it would be futile?
Sure, after Fritz denied I was even in his office.
Yeah, but if you called the dispatcher on the desk and said, I've just been shot at, my name is Roger Craig.
They would send a homicide unit.
Okay. You were just convinced that even that record would get lost too. Is that what An amount of two, or?
No, I wasn't so
Just
worried about
why
that. Is
didn't
the
you-
fact that they would know where I was at, and I didn't want them to know where I was at.
I see. You figured that somebody in the police officials or somebody was behind what happened to you. They were behind that shot.
Somebody was. I'm not
Okay,
saying
so you're
police
not-
officials or somebody was.
If you weren't taking any chance.
No.
Weren't you pretty easy to find?
No, well, my phone was in another name, for instance. I changed that.
Okay.
And then I found a house to live in where I could trust the person.
Mm-hmm.
I got my mail somewhere else. And if you're experienced, you can hide yourself.
Okay. Did you spend a period of time then in hiding, as it were?
More or less, yes.
Okay. What you're doing now certainly is not hiding.
No, but it's a little late for...
When did you come back out in the open, as it were?
Well, I knew I had to go to work, and I was trying to contact some of my old friends, to get a job that I thought wouldn't talk, But they weren't talking even to me. It was like I was in a vacuum. They were afraid to be seen with me on the street. So one evening, I was coming home, and I was digging up some information, actually, for Jim Garrison and Penn Jones Jr. of Midlothian. I was digging up some information that they wanted, in Dallas. And I parked my car on the side of the street, and I went to get this information. And when I came back and cranked up my car, it blew up. The engine caught fire, the hood came up, the firewall blew out. I had all the fuses blew, and I was burnt in the chest area, and I had pieces of glass and metal in the chest, small pieces. I don't know what they put in it, but...
It's not possible the car itself could have malfunctioned, does it?
Not that much of an explosion, no.
Somebody put a bomb in your car.
Somebody put something in it.
Okay. Should that have killed you? I mean, was it enough of a blast to normally kill the driver or person sitting in the seat?
I think... I had the distinct impression it was to scare me.
That was my reason for asking. Okay, you were hospitalized, obviously, for that.
Oh, yeah. I had to have some...
Okay, you recovered from that.
Right.
This is number 2 scare or number 2 attempt.
Yeah. Well, I had one before that. I was set up. The friend that set me up for the first shot, Penn Jones Jr., a friend of his, wanted to try to clear this up and see if in fact this friend was sincere, or whether, But I set up an appointment with him to meet him out in the Oak Lawn area. Well, I went out there and followed me out there. I went in and sat down, and 4 big guys come in, well-dressed, very well-dressed, businessmen. And they sit on all 4 sides of me. Well, my friend never showed up, but Penn and his did. They walked in right after the 4 men, and the 4 men immediately got up and left. And I'm convinced that it wasn't the right time because Mr. Jones was there.
Yeah, it's not healthy, I guess, to form mayhem in front of a
witnesses.
newspaper reporter. You, of course, had a tremendously hard financial time.
Oh, I was broke by this time.
You did work.
Oh, yeah, I took a job with a private detective agency
I see.
to make it over Christmas. This was around Christmas time, shortly after that, and I picked up a part-time job, and then I was just a guard in the jewelry store is what it was. But after the owner apparently knew my background, I filled out the application. He looked at my background and asked me if I wanted to try investigative work with his agency because they had just got a contract from the public bank to recover some MasterCharge cards that people were abusing and using illegally. So I said I'd try it. So he gave me, 50, 60, 70 of them. And I recovered 90% of them. Well, it just so happened, I didn't find out until after I'd recovered them, that the chief of the security for MasterCharge was none other than Mr. Graves, the man that was handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald when Jack Ruby shot him. Well, that didn't worry me too much, but I became more careful again. And then this last time, I'm skipping over here because I don't have much time. This last time we had a case to work in West Texas in the Davis Mountains. And our boss sent me out there. And he called the client who was on a three-party line and told him what flight I was coming into Midland on, where I was going to rent my car, where I would meet him, and at what time. So I flew into Midland, I rented the car, and I arrived. I was about 2 miles from where I was supposed to meet the client, 1 mile or 2 miles from where I was supposed to meet him. I was supposed to meet him at 3 o'clock, and it was 2:55 then. I rounded a curve, and there were 2 men standing outside of a car that was parked crossways in the road. And there wasn't anything to do but try to go around them, and I tried and I missed, and I went over the edge of the mountain, and I rolled end over end for 90 feet or so. I broke my back in 2 places. I broke my left shoulder. I tore the ulnar nerve and ligaments out of my left elbow, crushed my left foot, my right leg. I spent a year in a hospital, 4 major surgeries, 2 on my back, and I'm now totally disabled in the back, partially disabled in the right leg, and unemployed again. Back to my...
what was that car doing there?
Blocking the road.
Who was it?
I don't know. They left. They didn't stop. They left.
Did the highway patrolman or whoever comes to the scene of an accident investigate this?
Well, the sheriff's department did down there at Fort Davis, but they're so small, I think they got the sheriff and 2 deputies working the whole county. And
don't all accidents go into a state bureau or something?
Well, it went into the Texas Department of Public Safety, but it was listed as not a hit and run, but they've got another phrase for it. It's similar to a hit and run. Somebody got the license number now. Somebody saw that car and got the license number, and I traced it to Los Angeles, and it was registered to a vacant lot.
Did you get a good look at the men?
Yes, they were Latin. I couldn't give you a good description of them because they were on the opposite side of the car that I would have hit had I